So we'll watch this closely. It looks like we will see 3 days in a row of triple-digit temperatures by Tuesday, back in the mid-90s. So breaking daily record highs this weekend.
We're the Street Trust, and we're tired of normal. Because normal costs us time and money stuck in traffic. Normal means that the hot days keep getting hotter. Normal abandons the need of low-income communities and communities of color. And normal threatens the health and safety of everyone who uses our streets. Here at the Street Trust, we believe our future can be extraordinary. And when normal isn't working, we take to the streets and become the change we want to see. In our streets, we fight for equity and justice. We foster creativity and imagination. We champion prosperity and innovation. And we celebrate the magic that happens when we slow down and stop to smell the roses. In our streets.
اینجا خیابان‌های ما هست.
Estas son nuestras calles.
And these are our streets.
Normal doesn't make the cut. These are our streets, and we deserve way more than normal. Join the Street Trust in saying no to normal. And let's make our streets extraordinary together.
Let's also make our rails extraordinary. Huge shout out to the Street Trust, who is featured on our Transit Equity Day Live. Hello, everyone. My name is Bakari Height, Transit Equity Organizer with Labor Network for Sustainability. And I wanted to come to you really quickly because there's a really pertinent task that I want all of you to do. So I don't know if you've all heard, but huge shouts out to our friends at Friends of Passenger Rail Oklahoma. They've been posting all on their Facebook about this comment period for the FRA Amtrak long distance study. And if you don't know what that is, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of the site and show you just some things of the site to just kind of familiarize yourself with what it is, but also give you just kind of a walkthrough of how to put in comments so that you can all comment, because there's a lot at stake for it. I know a lot of you have been applying. Your city or your MPO has been receiving grants to study new long distance routes or just new routes with Amtrak in general. So I wanted to kind of show you that real quick. But really quickly, I wanted to do some housekeeping items. If you haven't, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've had a lot of great hits on our YouTube channel for Transit Equity Network, including something I've just posted not too long ago. It's also Amtrak related, which is Baltimore's Penn Station getting a new platform, which has gotten over 3,800 views. So keep that up, keep liking this, keep sharing this, as well as our lovely I walked with the good folks of BTEC, shout out to BTEC Nation. And we did a lovely electrified from the MTA headquarters building to push them to build light rail for the Red Line. So huge shouts out to them. And of course, we have other videos from various parts of our Transit Equity Day Live. Huge shout out to everyone that was there for that. So yeah, please subscribe to our Transit Equity Network YouTube channel. And if you'd like to get all of our updates for when we go live, like this one, or anytime we post anything, please hit this bell right here and hit all. When you see this that says subscribe, click that button and hit all so that you can be privy to every single notification we get. Huge shout out to everyone who recently just subscribed. But yeah, huge shout out to all of you. Also, we have a Facebook page, Transit Equity Network. So we're also going to be posting some things there, but it's also really great. I put a lot of great job opportunities. So if you're looking for a job in transit, I'll be posting some opportunities there. I'll also be posting links to a lot of our videos, as well as with other articles. I was interviewed by inequality.org, so the link to that article is in there. And just anything related to all the work that I've done. Like here's some more pictures of the BTEC rally in Baltimore. But yeah, absolutely. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and also follow us on Facebook on our Facebook page. And the links are also into the chat. And if you'd like to join our listserv, please send me an email, and I can also put my email into the chat as well. But I wanted to go over this site because I don't know if you've heard it, and if you haven't, that's also another issue that we can discuss later. But the Federal Railroad Administration is trying to gain comments on some long-distance Amtrak routes. Now, some of these routes were once Amtrak routes and have since been discontinued, and there's also some possibility for opening up new possible Amtrak routes. So we'll do a whole walkthrough of this so that you can all see the process. You can all see how to put comments in. But here's the website right here, and I can put the name of the website here. It's FRA longdistancerailstudy.org. Again, that's FRA longdistancerailstudy.org. So that's the website. You can put it in, and then you can be brought to this website. But I'll read it along so that we can just kind of follow along, and I'll comment along it. But yeah, definitely send in comments if you like to, and I can read them on the screen as well. Now, it says, Federal Railroad Administration Amtrak Daily Long Distance Service Study. The Federal Railroad Administration is conducting an Amtrak Daily Long Distance Service Study to evaluate the restoration of daily long distance intercity rail passenger service and the potential for new Amtrak long distance routes. The study will ultimately create a long-term vision for long-distance passenger rail service and identify capital projects and funding needed to implement that vision. So it's essentially what I just said. They're looking at reviving some routes that were discontinued, but also looking at new possible routes if you're trying to get from one part of the country to the other, or if you're wanting to get from one city to the other and not wanting to fly or drive or do it, all of this. So this is really big for the FRA and Amtrak to really undergo this. It gets into some of the history. It says, Amtrak was established by the Rail Passenger Act of 1970, which removed the requirement for U.S. railroads to provide intercity passenger rail service and created Amtrak to fulfill that role instead. In 1971, the U.S. Department of Transportation designated by 21 city pairs between which intercity passenger trains should operate, and Amtrak began service between those cities later that year. The new passenger rail system was about half the size by route miles of the pre-1971 U.S. passenger rail system, which had been operated by multiple railroads. At the request of Congress, several long-distance routes were added to Amtrak systems in the 1970s, but long-distance service contracted in the following decades, especially after a 1978 U.S. DOT report that recommended significant service reductions. Long-distance network service reductions over the past 50 years have resulted in some communities losing common carrier transportation options, as well as the economic and social benefits of those connections. So if you've been following us within the Transit Equity Network, you've seen different groups speak out about this. Shout out to our friends at the Railroad Workers United, who we've done our passenger rail webinar under the Public Transformation Series, which is coming back soon. As well as our friend Sheila Curry Campbell in Fort Wayne, Indiana, who talked about Fort Wayne also getting some money to study reviving passenger rail service in her town. So, this is really key, and especially when we're talking about equity, of making sure that, everybody has some kind of access to this system. And it's difficult if you're from a small town or if you're from an area that's not a really big city, to really assess your options on how to get around, especially if you have to get from one part of the country to the other. So say like if you're flying from, or if you're trying to get from like Wilmington, North Carolina to Denver, that's really difficult given the fact that there's not really a big major airport near Wilmington. And then there's also not as great a service to get back and forth between different places quickly. So this is a really wonderful opportunity, and especially like what the paragraph mentioned of restoring some of the economic and social benefits of having connections, like having a connection to Chicago, having a connection to Washington, D.C., having a connection to New York Penn Station, and a lot of these other big Amtrak hubs. So this is really great that, they're taking a focus on looking at what they can revive. Let's move on. It goes on to say, What are long distance routes? Statutorily defined, routes over 750 miles between endpoints that Amtrak operates as of the Passenger Rail Investment and Improvement Act of 2008. Practically applied, Amtrak operates 15 long-distance trains ranging from approximately 760 miles to 2,500 miles. Long-distance trains provide service at nearly half of the train stations in the Amtrak system. In 2019, long-distance trains carried more than 4.5 million passengers. And they also provide a map here, which I'm going to blow up a little bit more. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of service in the eastern part of the United States, of course, on the East Coast, and then up to Chicago. So you kind of see like the hubs I was talking about, Chicago, DC for the Northeast Corridor. And you don't have as much service in the plain states, two states in particular that are in talks of getting Amtrak service for the first time is Wyoming and South Dakota. And you barely have service in a lot of states like Montana and Idaho. And then you're also missing a lot of really key cities and big cities at that don't have Amtrak service. Most notably, Las Vegas, Phoenix does not have service. Nashville, Tennessee does not have service, and Columbus, Ohio. Those are some of the largest cities in this country that do not have Amtrak service. And there's also been many talks about restoring the Gulf routes train from New Orleans to Jacksonville. So this is a wonderful opportunity for us to look at some new options that we can possibly use to travel. And I know that there's been a lot of talk and a lot of movement with a lot of this travel going on. So, this is really wonderful. Now it goes on to talk about the study, and it says, what is the long distance service study? Section 22214 of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law of 2021 tasks the FRA under delegation from the Secretary of Transportation with conducting an Amtrak daily long distance service study to evaluate the restoration of daily intercity passenger rail service and the potential for new Amtrak long distance routes. Under the BIL, the FRA is required to conduct a study to evaluate the restoration of daily intercity rail passenger service along any Amtrak long distance routes that were discontinued and any Amtrak long distance routes that occur on a non-daily basis. In evaluating intercity passenger rail routes, FRA may evaluate potential new Amtrak long distance routes, including with specific attention provided to routes in service as of April 1971, but not continued by Amtrak, taking into consideration whether those new routes would link and serve large and small communities as part of a regional rail network, advance the economic and social well-being of rural areas in the United States, provide enhanced connectivity for the national long-distance passenger rail system, and reflect public engagement and local and regional support for restored passenger rail service. So essentially, they want to open this up to all these different communities, like I said, that either don't have service currently and should, or to also enhance connectivity with a lot of these communities. And especially because we all have big transportation needs that just can't be met by flying or can't be met by taking a Greyhound bus. While they do get you from point A to point B, close to it, it's good to at least have multiple options that you could get a little bit further. Like I grew up in a town with an Amtrak station, so it's great for me to take that straight to that station instead of having to fly to Savannah or fly to Atlanta and then having to drive the rest of the way, because now I have to figure out how to book a rental car and if our rental car is available and why they're so expensive. So it's just too much versus just taking a train. So this is really wonderful, and especially also, like I said, for the economic development piece of it, of connecting a lot of these cities to more economic opportunities. You'd be surprised to know how helpful Amtrak is with being able to connect you to places like New York City or Miami or Chicago or New Orleans, for that matter. Moving on, why study long distance passenger rail? The long distance service study presents an opportunity to establish and bolster essential intercity passenger rail connections and build a stronger rail network overall, one that would allow people to get where they need to go safely and efficiently. In some communities, Long-distance trains are the only common carrier passenger transportation option available, and the long-distance network provides millions of Americans with transportation options other than a personal vehicle. Study outcomes. The Amtrak Daily Long Distance Service Study will evaluate options for restoring or enhancing to daily basis intercity passenger rail service along routes, select preferred options for restoring or enhancing service, develop a prioritized inventory of capital projects and other actions required to restore or enhance the service, including cost estimates for those projects and actions, develop recommendations for methods by which Amtrak could work with local communities and organizations to develop activities, and programs to continuously improve public use of intercity passenger rail service along each route, and identify federal and non-federal funding sources required to restore or enhance the service. So it seems pretty straightforward that they want to get a lot of comments so that they can figure out where would be best to do so. So that's why it's imperative to make sure that you submit these comments and as soon as possible. The schedule is as shown. In the coming months, we will continue to engage and listen to stakeholders, including transportation and rail partners, federally recognized tribes, and communities. We evaluate how better to connect people with long-distance rail services. This is the first time that many communities, partners, and stakeholders will be included in a study of this magnitude, and we are committed to forming diverse and inclusive groups in every region. Engagement for the long-distance service study began in September 2022 and will continue throughout 2023 and part of 2024. And that's the page. And then it says here, contact us. Thank you for your interest in the long-distance service study. You may submit a comment or question via the comment form below. Please note that due to the breadth of the study, it may not be possible to respond to all feedback, but all feedback will be reviewed by the project team. And then there's a line for your name, there's a line for your email, and then there's a comment box, and then you hit submit. And that's simple. That's as simple as it is. You put your comments for what routes you would like to see or like to see restored, and you submit your comments. So that's one part of the page. Now they have another page that shows meeting materials. So if you have had the chance to go to one of these meetings, definitely put in the comments how it was and just kind of how it showed out. But currently right now we're in the winter 2024 route identification. So they're actually looking to figure out which routes they do want to revive or which routes they do want to connect. But they also have another point to where they can tell you to submit comments. So I can put the email if you'd like to comment them. So like if you don't know how to use technology that well, or if you're not available to do this, you can also email them at contactus@fralongdistancerailstudy.org. Again, that's contactus@fralongdistancerailstudy.org. So yeah. Let's see, because there's one more thing to where they had some. They had one of the pages where they actually showed what routes they were looking at reviving. But let's go into one of the pages and see. Okay, so here's a list of all the meetings that they did do. So they kind of did a meeting in every part of the country that they were focusing on. So they did one in the Northwest, Southwest, Central states, the Midwest, the Southeast, and the Northeast. But they also looked at the possibilities of what could be a really conceptual network for it. So you see there's a lot of areas. Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit more. Yeah. So as you can see, the ones in the kind of the darkish orange color are the current long distance routes. So as you can see that there's a lot, kind of similar to the first map, that there's a lot that goes a while everywhere. And the green lines are kind of the segments where they're looking to establish all this. So as you can see, Nashville's now on the board, Columbus is now on the board. Phoenix is now on the board. Las Vegas is now on the board. So these are just a couple of routes that they're looking at, and they're kind of assessing whether or not that they could enact service on a lot of these places. So if you live in one of these areas where they're looking at doing this, I know this is also, like I said, the return of the Gulf Passenger Rail from Jacksonville over to New Orleans. I see there's a line that's going from Nashville through Chattanooga and Atlanta, and some possible areas, segments going down to Savannah and down to the coast of Georgia. There's one connecting Louisville with Pittsburgh and connected with Detroit via Columbus. There's one that goes all the way from Fort Worth, Texas, through Tulsa, Kansas City, Des Moines, Iowa, through the Twin Cities up to Duluth. And there's also another one that's going from Bakersfield to Vegas, through Boise, Idaho, and then ending in Portland. So, and then, a lot of really great opportunities for routes. So these are examples of things to talk about. Within the comments, you can tell them that, hey, I live in X town. I would love to be able to go towards, X city. It's just that simple. But yeah, it's imperative that we get as many comments as possible. So if you can, please submit comments. Like I said, they're due on March 8th. So please utilize this website, check out the materials, and definitely share this video with all of your networks, especially if you are in an advocacy group, or you're in an activism group, or if you know anybody within the labor unions. Also definitely spread this with them as well. But as many comments as we can get for this, the better, because we can't have the world's largest rail network and not have a focus on passenger rail. These airlines the airline tickets are only going to get more expensive, and you can see they're nickel and diming everything. So we really have to put a place on passenger rail, and a huge value on passenger rail in this country. So, this is a quick little video. Like I said, subscribe to the Transit Equity Network YouTube channel. Follow us on our Facebook page. And definitely let me know if you want to join the Transit Equity Network. We'd love to have great new guests. Again, shout out to the Friends of Passenger Rail Oklahoma. Also, the Street Trust for being on our Transit Equity Day. But yeah, this is it. Definitely go hand out those comments. Once again, the site is FRAlongdistancerailstudy.org. If you'd like to email them your comments, hit them up at contactus@FRAlongdistancerailstudy.org. And if you also would like to get more involved with the Transit Equity Network, here's my email. That's Bakari, BAKARI, @labor4sustainability.org. Well, that's it. Like I said, share this with your networks. Let everybody know if you want to see more Amtrak, and if you have taken Amtrak and you've loved it and you want to see it expanded, please submit your comments. Share this with somebody who takes Amtrak, or share this with someone who wants to take Amtrak. And let's see if we can get some more passenger rail service around the country. But that is it. I hope you all have a really wonderful rest of your day. Like I said, my name is Bakari Height, Transit Equity Organizer, and I'm signing off. Thank you so much.